Hello, my name is Eric Goss. I would like to thank you for tuning in to the June Supervisor Safety Meeting. Today, myself and members of the Field Safety Committee are going to go through what is an SPA, why do we do SPAs, ways you can engage more of your team with the SPA process, and we will perform a mock SPA at the end. You may be asking yourself, what is an SPA? Well, an SPA, or a Safe Plan of Action, is a framework that we use here at Shirley for fostering communication about safety with members of your crew and with other crews on a job site. It is a form, it's a piece of paper. It's not just a form though, it's just supposed to be a starting point really. Parts of the form include inspecting your work area, identifying your hazards, figuring out which hazards are going to present themselves in the course of work on that day, and then how to mitigate those hazards. It's supposed to get everybody on the same page on what to look out for, what to be wary of on a given day. And then at the end of the day, how you're going to maintain your work area, free it from obstruction, and clean it up before you go home for the day. Signing it by every member of the crew is a way to increase personal accountability for what is discussed on that day. Why do we do SPAs? It's not just a box to check or a paper to sign. It's an important tool to encourage thought on daily field safety. It is also time set aside as an investment of knowledge that can be handed down to and across field crews. It's time to reflect on the good and bad from previous experience and expand on that with your crews, get them engaged, have them talking about what it is they do to not have slips, trips, and falls, for example. It's also a good way to be on the same page with the global safety focus of the company, handed down through the safety managers. And one of the most important items is it's a time to reset your mind and kind of get into work mode so you can be focused on the day and the task at hand. Now we're going to touch on some ways to foster communication engagement during the SPA process.
Hi, my name is Will Pierce. I'm a project engineer, and here are some tips on getting engagement in the SPA, because after all, it's the most important thing. First thing is give everybody the opportunity to speak. It's really important to try to touch on everybody's backgrounds and some of their experiences, so giving everybody the opportunity to speak is hugely important. Asking open-ended questions is a great way. Asking something where there's not a direct answer, anybody could go any which way with it, is a good idea. And then pause after you ask those questions to give people time to think about it and then formulate a response. Tips for a productive conversation would be asking for past experiences on certain tasks that you're going to complete that day. You'll have a lot of different, a lot of diversity within your crew. Typically, guys have been doing this for a couple months, guys who have been doing this for 40 years. So sometimes it's great to get the experience of the guys who's been doing it for 40 years, but then also sometimes the new guys can bring a different viewpoint to it and highlight something that maybe somebody's overlooked in the past. If crew members are struggling to engage, or you have some repeat offenders who are not really saying a whole lot, some tips for dealing with that is trying to approach them individually in a small group setting, like after the fact, and say, hey, how come you're not engaging in the SPAs? Is something that we're doing? Is what's going on? Is a lot of times somebody might just be shy, don't really want to speak up. Maybe they don't feel comfortable speaking up. And so approach them in a small group setting to make sure that they are recognizing some of the hazards too is important, and that'll get them more comfortable. And then maybe in a week or two they'll be starting to speak up. And then you could actually call some people out in the SPA if you know that they've got some experience in something and you know that they have something to contribute. They're just not really willing to do it themselves. Calling them out in a friendly way obviously is a good strategy to get some more engagement. So I think the key here is getting people comfortable speaking, so fostering an environment that promotes that, and everything is what we're going for here.
Hi, my name is Ori Webb. I'm a senior foreman at Courthouse Landing Project. In my part of the video, we're going to talk about engagement, how to go about it, how to take a look at it and get more engagement out of the guys. The first thing is, if the level of safety that we're trying to achieve out here really can't be reached without bringing up the level of engagement. In order to get more safe at our work and also more production, you've got to bring up your engagement. You got to get your guys more engaged. You got to get your guys on the same page. You got to create an environment where there's trust, there's understanding. You get guys' strengths and weaknesses down, and you lean on those, all of those, to get more engagement. First thing about engagement is that you've got to approach it and realize that engagement is more about the guys that you're talking to themselves than it is you. So you have an idea of what you want to say. You know the risk, that's why you're a manager. You kind of already know where you want to go production-wise. Those guys don't. But you can lean on their experiences, what they've seen before, what they've done, and get those wheels spinning in their heads to get your engagement there. So when you before you even approach your SPA, you really want to spend a decent amount of time. It's very simple for you to pick up and figure out where my hazards are, what I want to do. When I fill out my SPA, you need to put more thought into, okay, how do I get those guys thinking, engaging them? That's kind of where more your effort is. Anybody can fill out a SPA in 5 to 10 minutes. So the first step is you want to create an open environment. You want to, first thing in the morning, what I like to do is everybody huddles up. It's probably early in the morning, 6:50, 7 o'clock. You don't want to just jump right into it. You want to say, hey, how's everybody doing this morning? Everything going good? And somebody may raise their hand, and normally that's when it pops up that, hey, my knee's hurting, something like that, or something's going on. Right off the jump street, right then and there, you're getting some guys talking. It's low key, it's not a lot of pressure. You're already checking off some of the things that you're going to typically look for on your SPA. How's everybody's feeling? Maybe they have something that's carried over from yesterday. It's a great way to kind of break mold, get everybody on the same page. Next thing is you kind of want to break away from your standard. Here's my SPA. I'm going to read off it. You've lost guys right off the jump street. That's not an engaging way to do it. You can. What I personally like to do is, if I know that I'm doing the same thing that I was doing yesterday, like say installing under drain, I'm going to ask the guys right off the bat, all right guys, we're going to jump right in where we left off yesterday. We're doing under drain. Anybody see anything? Anybody see anything that could have been a close call or an improvement we could have made? Now you're hitting on production and safety at the same time. Or if we're moving into a different area on the job site, I love to pull the plans out. I love to get visual with it. I like everybody know if I got guys running off-road trucks, I point their route out clear. I say, if you're going to back up over here, there's most of where people are parking. I got some subs working over here. Those guys can see it. If you get visual with it, the engagement is really, really going to take off quick. And get to know your group. Spot out the individuals who are usually quiet, the individuals that are boisterous. Get to know their experience. Let's say you're loading barrier wall. Hey guys, anybody loaded barrier wall before? Just 2 hands go up. Like, all right, have y'all ever seen that go south? And somebody might say something like, yeah, one time I saw a guy lose a barrier wall next to live traffic, something like that. All right, what happened? Where do you think went wrong? Get that individual talking about his experience. If you spot the individual like, hey, I've never loaded the barrier wall, I've never done this before, that's the engagement that you're looking for. Say the guy ain't been on your crew 2 weeks. You don't know what he's done. But if you create a positive, very calm environment, that's going to help you as a manager to really realize what you're working with. You can also get it to the point to where your more experienced guys know at that start of that day, this guy's never done barrier. I'm going to keep an eye on him. You get them thinking. That's the whole point of engagement. You really just kind of want to get it to the point where you're just there to mentor the conversation. You're like the bumpers on the bowling alley. You want to get the conversation flowing in the same way. Stand there with your SPA. Listen to your guys talk. Listen to the more experienced talk. We need to look out for this. We need to look out for that. Get them going with the guys that are less experienced and keep the conversation. Just stand there. Don't really interject. Keep it going down the way that you want it to go. Keep mental note what was said. That way at the end of it, if it was not hit on, never touched on during the conversation, Really, the only time you're talking about was what wasn't hit, what wasn't hit on. And spot the individuals that have issues with engagement. Let's be honest, in our industry, you got some salty dogs out there. Some guys have been out there for a while. You got some inexperienced guys, maybe quiet, that may get to them a little bit. They may feel a little self-conscious. Engagement doesn't stop as soon as the SPA is over. Use the whole day to it. I like to really, I was very fortunate. I had a guy told me a long time ago, I can't get you to remember the grade from one day to the next, so I'm not going to try to get you to remember the entire safety rule book. What I'm going to teach you to do is how to fill it. 2 examples are, I may ask a guy, hey man, inexperienced guy, go fuel up that loader. And I look over where the fuel tank is and I see some things parked over there by it. I'll stop and ask, hey, how are you going to go do it? He may say, well, I'm just going to back up in that tight area. Well, what happens if you get too close to that power pole? Why don't you just grab the fuel tank and move it? At that point, I'm engaging him, I'm getting him to think. And I know there's some people who are probably watching this that go, well, yeah, I got some people, you say one word to them, they get all salty on me. Just put a little more thought into what you're saying. I've used this example in our safety committee. Say I got the most experienced operator on a wet slope, first thing in the morning. If I know that if I go over to this operator and I say something to him, he's probably going to fire back at me. He's a little grouchy, little older guy. So what I'll do is I'll just walk by him, just like, hey man, what's going on this morning? Slope's a little wet, be pretty embarrassing. Most experienced operator ended up at the bottom of the pond. I walk away. He may hate my guts, and he may have a lot of choice things to say about me, but I guarantee you, when he backs that dozer up, the thought is going to hit his head, yeah, I really don't want to slide in the bottom of this pond. And I won at that point. My mission is accomplished. Through engagement, I've got him critically thinking down the safe path. After your SPA, a really good way to judge your engagement would be, how much did I speak? If you are doing predominantly most of the speaking, your engagement's a little low. And then who did speak? Who did not speak? Who spoke the most? What was the tone of the conversation? What was the environment like? Last thing I want to say is, this may be a little controversial, but there are going to be individuals that watch this video, and they're going to sit here and they're going to say, they don't pay me enough to be Dr. Flittle. I'm not going to be out here trying to get into people's feelings, trying to rub people the right way. Well, if you're in management and you're watching this video, you have to wear a different hat all different hours of the day. It is your responsibility to promote an environment where guys get more engaged. And besides the fact, if you're promoting more engagement and you're working on your guys critically thinking like you are, that's why you're a foreman, it's going to make your life easier. No one wants to be standing there in the scene of an incident where your upper management looks at you and goes, how did this happen? Think about that. If that's the only thing that keeps you to push more engagement is, I don't want to have something happen on my watch, I don't want to be a part of it, doesn't matter. You're moving in the safe direction. So engagement is extremely critical.
Today we're talking about the energy wheel, which is a good tool to use to recognize commonly overlooked hazards such as chemical and mechanical, electrical, things that you would normally walk by on a regular day and not think of, or your employees would not regularly think of being a hazard. It's a process to where they can look at, training how to recognize these hazards and whether they could be a hazard down the road or they're a hazard, that day in the work situation that you're in. And it reminds them to scan the workplace and be aware of the hazards that sometimes you can't see an energy, electrical energy that's in the ground, a conduit, or traffic moving. It might not be in your way today, but it might be in your way tomorrow. And if they can think about different things like that outside the box, it could help somebody save their life, and it just makes work safer. A lot of these are commonly overlooked. You never know, there's conduit there, you don't know if it's energized, or storm sewers got storm water flowing through it, whether it could erode the ground or anything like that. It just reminds us to search for hazards on the workplace that we don't commonly look for.
And now the members of the Field Safety Committee are going to go through a mock SPA, and we're going to bring this whole thing full circle.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Today is another day, so I'm going to talk about what we're going to do today, what kind of tool do we need. First of all, we're going to set panels today, so you have to make sure you have everything with you, your personal tool. Plus, we're going to be using other tools, skill saw, drill, brake bars. Other thing we're gonna do today, we're gonna be cutting concrete, so we're gonna be using the chuck saw. I'm gonna talk about what we need to do and what we need to see for safety-wise. So the people is gonna be working cutting concrete, so you gotta make sure replace the blades. Make sure when you replace the blades, tie down with the crescent wrench. Get the proper PPE. You're gonna need the face shield, the chaff. When you cut in the concrete, make sure to spray water. So that's avoid to have a dust on the jack side and protect yourself, your healthy wise, as you help.
If you have a vacuum too, might help if you had one.
Yeah, it's a hard one, but in this case I don't have it in size.
Gotcha.
You're gonna be erecting panel. So make sure when you use the skill saw, find the proper spot, bench, or the good spot for cutting. So grab the skill saw with the two hands. If you want to replace the blade, you have to see for two things before replace the blades. It's this electric skill saw you're going to be using, make sure unplug it. If you have the battery skill saw, remove the battery before replace the blades. Make sure when you grab the skill saw, make sure the guards are workable, they're not stuck, because sometimes when you use it a lot, it's have a dust between the guard and the skill saw. You want to be using the drilling lumber. So make sure grab the drill with the two hands. If you have a handle, make sure you use the handle with the two hands. So do not use the one hand, because the handle are made to be used too. Sometimes we think we can drill with one hand, but you can twist your hand or hurt yourself with a piece of lumber, turn it over and hit your knee or your leg. I'm going to speak in Spanish, explain to them, make sure they understand what I'm saying. Hoy vamos a estar trabajando cortando concreto y poniendo paneles. Ustedes van a estar en la operación de cortar concreto. Asegúrense de que el chuck saw, la herramienta que usamos para cortar concreto, esté bien apretado el blade. Apriétenlo con una llave, con perica que le llamamos. Para controlar el polvo tiene que usar agua. No tenemos la vacuum en este momento en el sitio de trabajo, así que vamos a usar agua para controlar el polvo. Asegúrense de tener los lentes, protección para los oídos, los guantes, los cuales veo que ya lo tienen. Eso es muy importante, que al comenzar el día de trabajo tengamos el equipo personal protección de cada uno de nosotros. Así que asegúrese de usar las pantaletas para cubrirse, que no vaya a cortarse las piernas o parte de su cuerpo. Acá ustedes van a estar utilizando sierras, cortando cuñas, madera, soporte, así que Cuando vayan a cambiar el blade, asegúrense qué es lo que va a hacer cuando va a cambiar el blade.
Conectar la corriente,
Qué bueno.
conectar la corriente y cuando es de batería a la cortadora y quitarle la batería, pues,
Correcto.
proteger la batería.
La misma precisión también, ¿verdad, Marcos? En el drill.
Lo principal, cuidarse los dedos, porque están exactos los paneles.
Correcto.
No agarrar de los costados, sino de los ganchos de la parte de arriba.
Correcto. So there is other thing we have facing every day on our job site. It's the equipment, tripping hazard, fall hazard, and I'm gonna turn to Patrick. He's gonna talk about the other hazards I didn't mention about it.
Yep, with slips and trips and falls, it's the number one problem. Hand injuries are our top offender in our company, among our people in our company, and just want to make sure that you have a clear area around you, a clear line of egress, and in some cases, people just watching after each other, not necessarily a spotter, but just monitoring somebody when they're working, just because maybe you see something that's in their blind spot that they don't see. Said using the right tools for the job and having your PPE is also big, but just being aware of your surroundings, communicating, and looking out for each other day to day. That goes across the board, but especially for slips, trips, and falls. 3 points of contact when entering a machine is also really big, and just having a clear area and not having a clutter-free work zone where you have this clear zone of free way of access and egressing an area.
Okay, guys, that's all you got. Okay, guys, so be safe through the day. So make sure you go home without injury and enjoy the day. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you.